Jungle Book by Rudyard Kipling. This is a book by Scholastic. Okay, we're on page 98. All right, let's continue. The buffalo were anxious to go home. They did not need Akela to convince them. They charged the gate at full speed, scattering the crowd. "Keep count," Mowgli shouted. "I may have stolen one of them. Keep count, for I shall do your herding no more. Farewell, children of men. Be thankful to Mesua. It is for her sake that I will not come with my wolves to hunt you in your streets." Mowgli turned on his heel and walked away with Akela by his side. As he walked, he looked up at the stars and felt happy. "No more sleeping in traps for me," he said. "Come, let's get Shere Khan's skin and go." As the moon rose, the villagers watched Mowgli trot across the plain with 2 wolves at his heels and a bundle on his head. They banged the temple bells and blew conches as loudly as they could. Mesua cried, and Buldeo told the story, embellishing it more and more. In the end, he finished it by saying that Akela had stood up on his hind legs and spoken like a man. The moon was just going down when Mowgli and the 2 wolves came to Mother Wolf's cave. "They have cast me out of the man pack, Mother," Mowgli said, "but I have returned with the hide of Shere Khan to keep my word." Mother Wolf walked out of the cave with her 4 youngest cubs behind her. Her eyes glowed when she saw the tiger's skin. "I told him on the day he showed his head into our cave that the hunter would become the hunted." "Well done, little frog." "Well done, little brother," said a deep voice in the thicket. "We have been lonely in the jungle without you." Bagheera came running and stood by Mowgli's bare feet. Then together they climbed up to Council Rock. Mowgli spread the skin on the stone. Where Akela used to sit, and held it fast with bamboo slivers. Akela lay down upon it and called to the council. "Look, look well, O wolves," exactly as he had done when Mowgli was first brought there. Although the pack had been without a leader since Mowgli left, they answered Akela's call. Without a leader, they had been left to hunt on their own. Some were lame from traps and some limped from wounds. Others were mangy from eating bad food. Many were missing. All that were left answered the call and saw Shere Khan's striped hide on the rock, with its huge claws dangling down. Then Mowgli began to sing. It was a song without any rhymes that came into his throat all by itself. He shouted it aloud, leaping up and down on the skin until he was out of breath. Gray Brother, and Akela howled between the verses. "Look well, O wolves, have I kept my word?" Mowgli asked when he was finished. "Yes," the wolves bayed. Then a tattered-looking wolf howled. "Lead us again, Akela, lead us, man cub. We want to be a pack once more." "No," Bagheera purred. "When your bellies are full, you may go mad again. You fought for this freedom, and now it is yours. Eat it, O wolves." "Man pack and wolf pack have cast me out," Mowgli said. "Now I will hunt alone in the jungle." "We will hunt with you," said the 4 wolves Mowgli had grown up with. From that day on, Mowgli hunted in the jungle. But Mowgli was not always alone. Years later, he became a man and married. But that is a story for grown-ups. Rickety Tickety Tavi. Rickety Tickety Tavi was a brave and clever mongoose who fought a great battle against 2 conniving cobras living in the gardens of the big bungalow in Sagauli, India. Although he had help from Darzi, the tailor bird, and Shushendra, the muskrat, Ricky did all the real fighting himself. Ricky had a fluffy bottle brush tail and a restless pink nose. His eyes were pink too, except when he was angry. When Ricky was angry, his eyes glowed a fiery red, and he scuttled quickly through the long grasses. He uttered a mischievous sound that mimicked his name. Ricky, Rick, tick, ticky, ticky, tick. Ricky did not always live in the big bungalow. Like most young mongooses, he grew up with his mother and father in a cozy burrow. But one day, a great flood washed him out of his home and sent him kicking and sputtering down a roadside ditch. The next thing he knew, he was lying in the middle of a garden path, and a small boy was standing over him saying, "Look, it's a dead mongoose. Let's bury him and have a funeral." The little boy's mother peered at the young mongoose. "Perhaps he isn't dead at all," she said. "Let's take him into the house and dry him off." Ricky, of course, was not dead. As soon as he had been dried and warmed, he sat up, wiggled his nose, and looked around. Then he scratched himself, put his fur in order, and jumped onto the boy's shoulder. "He's tickling under my chin," cried the boy, whose name was Teddy. Teddy's parents laughed. "Let's give him something to eat," suggested Teddy's father. Ricky rubbed his nose against Teddy's ear, then climbed down to the floor. After a delicious snack of raw meat, he busied himself exploring the house, curious about everything. He nearly fell into the bathtub, got his nose covered in ink from the inkwell, and burned his whiskers on the end of Teddy's father's cigar when he climbed onto his shoulder to see how writing was done. Ricky was truly enjoying himself. The next morning, Ricky dined on boiled egg and banana, scampering from one lap to another between bites. He was thrilled with his new family, for every young mongoose hopes to be a house mongoose when he grows up, and Ricky was no exception. His belly, half full, a full belly makes for a slow mongoose, Ricky went out to explore the garden. Dashing among the tall grasses, citrus trees, rose bushes, and bamboos, he licked his lips. This was fertile hunting ground indeed. Fluffing up his tail, Ricky heard a mournful cry coming from the thorn bush. Darzi, the tailor bird, and his wife were weeping. "What is the matter?" asked Ricky, his nose quivering. "We are very miserable," replied Darzi. "One of our babies fell out of the nest and Nag ate him." "That is very sad," agreed Ricky. "But who is Nag?" Just at that moment, a low hiss came from the thick grass nearby, making Ricky shiver and jump back. Then, inch by inch, the head and hood of a large black cobra rose into the air. "I am Nag," hissed the cobra. His wicked black eyes stared at Ricky. "Look and be afraid." Ricky stared at the giant snake, but only felt fear for a moment, because a mongoose is never afraid for long. Ricky had never met a cobra before, but his mother had fed him on dead ones, and he knew it was a grown mongoose's work to kill and eat snakes. And though his staring black eyes did not show what he was feeling, Nag knew this to be true too, and his cold heart was full of fear. Ricky's tail fluffed up. "Well, do you think it is right to eat young birds who have fallen from their nest?" Nag didn't answer, but watched the grass behind Ricky flicker. He knew that a mongoose in the garden meant death for his family sooner or later, and he wanted to distract the newcomer. "Let us talk," Nag said smoothly. "You eat eggs. Why shouldn't I eat birds?" "Look out!" cried Darzee. "Behind you!" Ricky needed no prodding. As soon as the words were out of Darzee's mouth, he leaped into the air as high as he could. Hiss! Beneath him, the hooded head of Nagaina, Nag's wicked wife, whizzed by. Ricky came down and bit Nagaina's back, but he did not hold on long enough to kill her because he was startled by the way she lashed violently about. "Wicked Darzee!" cried Nag angrily as Ricky leaped to safety. The mongoose's eyes were glowing red and his teeth chattered with rage, while Nag and Nagaina slithered away into the grass. Ricky trotted off to the gravel garden path and sat down to think. These cobras were something to contend with, but on the other hand, Ricky was pleased with himself, for a young mongoose rarely survives an attack from behind. And so when Teddy appeared a few minutes later, Ricky was ready to be petted. Okay, we'll stop there.